happening. The most closely watched case, certainly since O.J. Simpson.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're discussing the shocking true story of Caylee Anthony, where the truth lies.
Is she a sociopath, or what's the issue here?
Right now, I'm not sure that she isn't.
For this video, we're looking at the events surrounding the tragic death of Caylee Anthony and the case's #1 suspect. Are you watching Where the Truth Lies? Let us know in the comments. The disappearance of Caylee Anthony. On August 9, 2005, 19-year-old Casey Marie Anthony gave birth to her daughter, Caylee Marie Anthony, in Orlando, Florida.
On August 9, 2005, Casey gives birth to Caylee Marie Anthony.
According to Casey, the pregnancy was the result of an assault while she was unconscious at a party, and she didn't know who the father was.
And while Casey would not give the name of the father, it didn't seem to matter to the Anthonys.
She raised Caylee as a single mother with the help of her parents, Cindy and George, whom she lived with at the time. Caylee was last seen alive on June 16, 2008, 2 months shy of her 3rd birthday. However, her grandparents wouldn't realize she was missing until a month had passed, mostly because Casey often had an answer for where her daughter was.
The grandmother reported it had been a month since Casey or anybody had seen Caylee.
Meanwhile, Casey was seen spending time with her then-boyfriend, Tony Lazzaro. They would go shopping and frequently partied at nightclubs. On July 2nd, she even got a new tattoo reading Bella Vita, which is Italian for beautiful life.
Casey gets a tattoo, Bella Vita, which is Italian for beautiful life.
Despite attempts to locate both her daughter and granddaughter, Cindy didn't see Casey until July 15th, after she and George were alerted that their car would be impounded. As it turned out, Casey had abandoned it in a parking lot.
They actually went to the tow yard and recovered the car.
When the couple picked up the car, there was reportedly a strong smell of decomposition. Soon after, Casey finally returned home, claiming that she hadn't seen Caylee in a month because her nanny, Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez, nicknamed Zanny, refused to give her back.
Casey tells Detective Mellis that she didn't call the police because she was afraid that the nanny would harm Caylee in some way.
Cindy called 911 and reported her as missing, also mentioning the overwhelming car smell.
Found my daughter's car today. It smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car.
After gathering information from Casey, Orange County investigators went searching for Zanny at her apartment and visited Universal Studios to question Casey's co-workers. They realized that the then 22-year-old had been lying and giving them false leads.
He discovers that Caylee Anthony hasn't worked at Universal Studios for more than 2 years.
They arrested her for child neglect, lying to investigators, and interfering with a criminal investigation. As such, Caylee Anthony became the prime suspect in her daughter's disappearance.
Our hope was that it would start to sink in that this was really serious and that she would just tell us.
The most hated mom in America. It didn't take long for the media to hear about the missing child from Orlando. Soon, the story reached national attention, and as more details about Caylee Anthony's behavior and constant lies were revealed, she became the most hated mom in America.
It was a war zone.
While her parents were out organizing searches, Casey remained uncooperative with law enforcement.
However, since Casey's been behind bars, she's kept investigators at arm's length.
On the 5th of August 2008, Casey was formally charged with 1 felony count of child neglect. She made bond, but was arrested at the end of the month on unrelated charges for check fraud and later released. Then, on October 14th, Anthony was officially charged with first-degree murder in addition to abuse, manslaughter, and lying to police, to which she pleaded not guilty. By this time, the forensic results from examining the car were made public.
Police believe they have enough evidence that suggests there was a decomposing body.
On December 11th, utility worker Roy Kronk called the police after he discovered a bag with skeletal remains in a wooded area within a half-mile of the Anthony home.
We found a human skull. Oh my gosh.
Days later, the remains were confirmed to be Caylee Anthony. Medical examiner Dr. Jan Garavaglia announced at a press conference that the cause of death was believed to be homicide.
With regret, I'm here to inform you that the skeletal remains found on December 11th are those of the missing toddler, Caylee Anthony.
The state versus Anthony. Before the Caylee Anthony televised murder trial began on May 24th of 2011, the media was already in a frenzy, with many comparing it to the infamous O.J. Simpson trial in the 1990s.
For the public, it was a constant diet of a real-life soap opera.
Spectators lined up outside the courthouse for hours hoping to get a seat.
The people were arriving at the Orange County Courthouse at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to wait in line to get their spot and watch this trial.
Florida prosecutor Jeff Ashton used Casey's behavior during the 31 days Caylee was allegedly kidnapped to theorize her motive for murder would be to live a child-free life.
From the evidence that you will hear in this case, there is no other conclusion.
Photos of her dancing at Fusion nightclub in a hot body contest released before the trial sparked public outrage.
There was just exhibit after exhibit of some of the wild and crazy things Caylee Anthony was doing.
In April of 2009, before the trial even started, Law & Order Special Victims Unit aired an episode titled Selfish that was inspired by the Anthony case. Hilary Duff starred as a young mom accused of killing her daughter because she wanted to party.
I told you she's at the babysitter. You know what? You're full of crap!
The defense delivered a shocking opening statement claiming that Caylee died on June 16th of an accidental drowning in their swimming pool.
Caylee Anthony died on June 16, 2008, when she drowned in her family's swimming pool.
Their argument was as follows. George allegedly showed Caylee what happened and proceeded to cover up her death by disposing of the body. The defense attorney then accused George of abusing his daughter for years, starting when she was a child. However, throughout the trial, this accusation wasn't proven to be true or even discussed, suggesting it might have just been a tactic to shock the jury.
This was laid out in an opening statement, but nothing to back it up as far as testimony is concerned, but it stuck there.
The social media trial of the century. Another notable aspect of the case was that it gained attention through media sources outside of network television and newspapers. The trial was live-streamed online through different outlets, with some even creating Twitter accounts dedicated to trial coverage. For 6 weeks, the world watched the Caylee Anthony trial unfold, hearing testimonies from essentially everyone but Caylee herself. Several forensic experts took the stand with their conflicting opinions on the placement of the duct tape found with the remains, as well as the possible cause of death.
She put duct tape over her mouth and her nose so that she couldn't breathe.
Then on July 5th, after deliberating a little over 10 hours, the jury found Caylee Anthony not guilty of murder, manslaughter, or child abuse.
As to the charge of first-degree murder, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty.
She was convicted of 4 counts of lying to the police and sentenced to 4 years in prison and $4,000 in fines. However, having already been incarcerated for 3 years and getting credit for good behavior, Anthony only served another 12 days before she was released on July 17th.
On July 17th, Caylee is released from prison.
To say the shocking verdict ignited public outrage would be an understatement.
How upset are you right now? I can't even talk. I'm appalled by this.
Even celebrities on Twitter voiced their anger and disbelief. All of the media attention inspired Florida lawmakers to pass Caylee's Law, which made it a felony to impede an investigation into a child's disappearance by giving false information.
It would make it a felony for anybody who doesn't report their child missing within a reasonable amount of time if their child might be in danger.
The high-profile case affected a large number of people outside of the Anthony family, too. Following the trial, Caylee faced multiple lawsuits. Texas EquiSearch sued for the costs associated with their searches, since she claimed to have already known that Caylee was deceased. And both Zenaida Fernandez-Gonzalez and Roy Kronk filed and lost defamation suits against her.
Caylee reaches a settlement with EquiSearch, and Zenaida Gonzalez's lawsuit is dismissed.
Post-trial revelations. With the continued interest in the case, others have taken it upon themselves to re-investigate, which has often led to details that were overlooked or purposefully left out.
I want to go back and revisit this case. It's personal to me.
One key discovery made by the defense was noted in Jose Baez's 2012 bestseller, Presumed Guilty, Caylee Anthony, The Inside Story. Apparently, one of their experts found that someone had deleted internet history on the Firefox browser that included a search for foolproof suffocation.
Somebody on the afternoon of the day that Caylee disappeared did a search for the term foolproof suffocation.
This is further explored in A&E's 2018 series Marcia Clark Investigates the First 48, where Florida prosecutor Jeff Ashton admits they missed the evidence.
It's very disturbing
that, there is a piece of evidence out there that was missed.
Ashton also wrote his own book in 2011, Imperfect Justice, Prosecuting Caylee Anthony, which Lifetime made into a movie starring Rob Lowe as Ashton. In the years since the verdict, some jury members have said they acquitted Anthony of murder because the prosecution didn't prove their case.
I'm not saying that Caylee was innocent. It's just the prosecution just didn't prove their case.
The evidence was circumstantial, and though they could have used that to help the jury visualize how the events took place, jurors felt that nothing concrete condemning Anthony could be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
The prosecutors didn't paint a picture. They left it up to the jurors to visualize this murder.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Caylee Anthony, Where the Truth Lies. Though many key players in the case have appeared on television and in documentaries, as well as written books, Caylee Anthony has been decidedly absent in the media. However, in May of 2021, she was back in the headlines after she reported a woman throwing a drink at her in a Florida bar.
I'm still wet. I got a drink thrown at me. This girl has been harassing me for a while.
A month later, a former prisoner appeared on an episode of Cellmate Secrets to talk about Anthony's behavior behind bars.
Her behavior at that time was like, oh, I got caught.
Back in March of 2017, Anthony spoke to the Associated Press in a rare interview and has considered publishing a book of her own.
I'm okay with myself. I sleep pretty good at night.
While she's yet to publish anything, in early November of 2022, Peacock released a teaser for its new 3-part docuseries, Caylee Anthony, Where the Truth Lies. It debuted on November 29, 2022. The announcement sparked immediate backlash, with many questioning why Anthony was being given a platform when a large majority of the public believes she's guilty of murder.
I think the public should know. The public should know if Caylee Anthony's getting paid for this whole thing.
Regardless, filmmaker Alexandra Dean spent 6 months talking to Anthony to get her side of the story, however credible that might be.
But no one asked why.
Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.